my channel, The Sarthak Show, where we discuss about tech, career, product, and life. And today we have a very special guest with us. He's a very distinguished uh, content writer, digital marketing expert, strategy expert, and he has been a freelancer for quite a while now. So we will deep dive into his story. What was his career like? What are the different things that he had done in his life till now? What are his learnings? And today we will understand how Deepak has moved his career from one point of view towards other, and what are the learnings that you can take from here on. So thank you so much, Deepak, for joining in for this podcast. Thank you so much for taking out this time, and would love to know more about you and your professional life.
Hey, pleasure, man. Thanks so much for having me. Hey, guys. It's been a pretty interesting decade and a half or so that I've been working in various roles. So I am currently a content and marketing freelancer, helping clients out with a little bit of creativity, a little bit of logic, and just a whole bunch of common sense. Is what I'd like to say. About in 2009 is when I started working in marketing formally. I worked in various ad agencies, and my roles varied from business development to digital strategy. I used to lead digital strategy for Ogilvy and Leobenitz digital wings in India for a while. After that, I moved to a pretty interesting company called OML Entertainment, the guys who run the NS7 Weekender, manage a bunch of comedy artists, etc. And I was doing a bunch of things over there from a marketing content point of view. And from there, I shifted internally to a team that eventually ended up being what is Paytm Insider today.
Okay.
And that was the last formal job that I held. And since 2019, I've been on my own. And when I say on my own, my wife has joined me in this journey now. So it's really us, the two of us, who basically we call ourselves Rough Paper. That's the name of our little studio, and we do content and digital marketing work for a few clients, mostly from a strategic and advisory perspective. So that's the sort of like what the LinkedIn profile says, that journey. But along the way, I've done a whole bunch of other freelancing as well. Ever since I started, like at the beginning of this journey itself, I've always freelanced in some capacity or the other. I've written, I've done some cartooning at some point of time. There was an ill-fated stint in stand-up as well, which we shall not talk about today. Then I used to teach digital marketing, and I still do. In fact, I taught at a number of B schools and Flame University, Micah, Simbi, TapMe, a whole bunch of places. I ran my own course for a while. So I've tried a whole bunch of things, but all of them come back to the same sort of thing, right? Content, marketing, and strategy. Yeah. So that's it in a nutshell. Along the way, I've done a few podcasts and newsletters and things like that. So it's been an eventful a decade and a half, I'd like to think. So yeah.
Definitely, I think that's a very wonderful story to it, and I am fascinated. Like before even starting the podcast and listening to this right now, that whatever things that you have tried, I have been extremely fascinated right now and want to know everything about you.
Let's go.
I think audience are in for a luck, and they are going to learn a whole bunch of variety of things today. So starting with the thing that you've mentioned, like you're working in now in your own venture, and then this venture is all about digital marketing and content and strategy. So like for a person out there, what should they understand, like, or what do you mean by digital marketing, and what is that they consider today?
Okay, so that's fairly, it's a fairly broad question. So let me try to break it down into various things, right? So digital marketing, quite simply put, is using the internet for marketing, right? In some way or the other, right? Everything that you see online, which a brand is paying for in some way, is some form of digital marketing. So if you go on to Google and search for something, and if you see ads over there, that's a form of digital marketing. If you go on to Instagram and if you see a funny post from Zomato or something like that, even though it's not an ad, that is also one part of digital marketing. Suppose you're writing a research paper and you need to say, learn something about electric vehicles in India or something like that, and you come across a white paper that's been written by TCS or Deloitte, that's also another form of digital marketing. When you go onto YouTube and you desperately want to watch the highlights of Man United being annihilated yet again, and you see an ad before that, that's also digital marketing. The sponsor of your show that's going to come over here, that's also another form of digital marketing, right? So digital marketing takes various forms, right? It's an extremely versatile form of marketing. There are many, many nuances to it, and I won't get into details of all that, but quite simply put, all of it is tied together using this. When marketing happens via the internet in some shape or form, that is essentially what digital marketing is. Of course, it runs through many various platforms, and from a professional point of view, there are lots of things that you can do within that, right? It's quite unlikely that there's going to be one person who is going to be an expert at everything, purely because there are so many different aspects to it, right? There might be somebody who oversees things from a strategic point of view, which is something that I try to do. But it's more likely that there's going to be, any company is likely to have a digital marketing team. They'll have somebody who takes care of all the paid advertising. There's somebody who takes care of the social media. There's somebody else who takes care of video content. There's somebody else who takes care of content marketing. There's somebody else who takes care of influencer management. There could be various agencies that take care of all of these. There could be internal teams. There could be, like for large companies, there could be internal digital marketing, like using an intranet and things like that. So it's quite varied. The role is quite varied. The professional angles to it are also, very, 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 very varied. So that is broadly what digital marketing is. And within this entire universe, what we do as rough paper, as in what my wife and I do, is one small sliver of this, which is trying to advise companies as to what platforms they should be using and what they should be doing on it. So it's mostly from a strategic and advisory perspective. We don't get too much into the execution part of things. There are others who do only execution, right? Like I know friends of mine who do only paid marketing. They don't care about the overall strategy and picture. Their expertise is converting your rupees into more rupees, right? Online. So that's what they do. So yeah, that's broadly what it is. I hope I've answered the question. There were 2-3 things that you mentioned in there, but this is the digital marketing aspect of it.
Yeah, I think that answers the question very well. I think whatever has been thought of about digital marketing, you have covered and summarized all of these things into one single answer. Then I will get back to on the strategy part of it, since you mentioned that. But before that, uh, and I believe that since digital marketing is something which is going to grow bigger and bigger as in time passes, because everybody is on internet. Everybody who is not on internet will be on internet. So companies are going to push more and more marketing towards that. So how can one become a digital marketing expert, or not expert as in how can one move into that space, or maybe become a digital marketer?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. I'll just go back to one of the things that you mentioned, right? You said digital marketing will be growing. The truth of the matter is it's been growing for a while now. Ever since 2009, it's growing at a double-digit percentage every year, right? No matter what metric you look at, be it the amount of money that is spent by brands online, be it the number of platforms, be it the number of professionals that are being hired. Digital marketing, I wouldn't say is it's already growing. We're in that wave right now, so it's no longer a future facing thing. It's pretty much here and now, right? It's kind of interesting because when I started my career back in 2009, digital was pretty nascent, and we had to do a lot of work in terms of selling digital to clients, right? We had to go to a lot of people and try very hard to convince them that at that point of time, Facebook was a place to put your money in and all that. And we had a very hard time, but I've seen firsthand that shift completely happening, right? That of people being skeptical of digital to accepting it. And then now it's kind of interesting. We live in a time now where digital has actually overtaken traditional media in terms of spend. I'm saying globally. In India, it will take a while because let's face it, right? We are not, the internet penetration still has a way to go in our country, and traditional media is still very, very strong for a large part of the country. So I don't think that shift is going to happen in India anytime soon. That being said, absolutely, the spends are going to continue increasing. The nuances are going to continue. You're going to continue having professionals, both freelancers and consultants like me, as well as agencies and all that. The roles are just going to keep increasing. And within each of these verticals that I said, paid marketing, content writing, social media, you're just seeing demand increasing. You're just seeing more and more requirement for people like this. Every day I have clients asking me, hey, do you know young copywriters doing this? I need somebody taking care of my social media. I need this, I need that. So the demand is there. And I'm not even talking about the traditional digital roles like building websites and building apps and all that. That is always going to be over there, right? So digital is growing. It's a great time to consider this. And let me put it this way: if any of your listeners are interested in marketing, it's very, very unlikely that they're going to escape digital in some way or the other. I don't think there is anybody. I don't think there's a single course in the country, marketing course in the country today, that can teach marketing without touching upon some nuances of digital. You'll have to like, there will be the basics that are agnostic of medium, like customer segmentation and whatever, all those other fancy things. But a lot of application of marketing today is in digital, so it's inescapable. Like, even just for your listeners who may not be aware, typically advertising agencies are divided into traditional and digital, right? For example, when I was working at Leo Burnett, on the first floor were my so-called mainline counterparts who used to come up with the actual ads that you see on TV and print and all that. It's the so-called traditional advertising. And then on the ground floor sat Indigo Consulting, our team, which used to take care of the digital part of things. I think slowly, what's happening is these two are coming together, because when the mainline team comes up with an ad, they need to think about how it's going to look on Instagram. And when we also need to think about, the other side of things. So these two, eventually, I do see that these two parts are going to eventually come together. Like, just like we don't talk about TV ad. We don't have separate teams for TV advertising and outdoor. We don't have separate teams for Facebook and Twitter, right? So it's all together. So I think eventually all mediums are kind of going to come together. Sorry, that was a bit of a ramble, but I'll get to the specific question that you asked. How can people get into digital? I think the first and foremost thing is to figure out what part of digital do you want to do, because each of these things are very, very different from each other. Are you a person who is more creatively driven? Are you a person who considers themselves a good writer? Are you a person who is more visual in nature? And even within visual, are you better with graphics or are you better with video? Do you want to take video itself as a career? Do you want to be more on the strategic side of things, or are you good with numbers? Are you good with crunching numbers into data and insights? Or are you good with numbers in the sense of making a media and budgeting plan? So there are so many different places for you to go to, right? I think for anyone who is listening to this and is young and is fascinated by the internet in general, I think you should ask yourself, okay, which part of this appeals to you the most, right? Are you looking at ads? Are you looking at video ads like the ones that say Cred made or something like that and saying, hey, I'd like to do something like this, then you are thinking more on the creative side of things. Maybe you see yourself as a script writer, right? So then great, that's the path that you should pursue. There are many ways to do this. You can join an agency at a very junior level. You can take a course from any number of institutes, or you can just start yourself, right? There are so many small companies that require creative skills. Building yourself up is a great way of doing it. It involves a fair bit of hustle, but it's a great way of getting your hands dirty and learning on the job. Or are you more, when you see an ad, are you thinking, what a great way to solve that problem? Now you're thinking more strategically. It's less about the creative and more about how this is being used to solve a business problem. Then you're thinking more strategically. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view, the way to strategy is usually through an MBA or a B school. At least that's what I did. I went to MICA and I got into an agency in a business development / strategy role, and that tends to be the case for most agencies. Are typically divided into this servicing, there is planning, and then there is creative and planning I've already spoken about. Servicing is actually one of the most common entry points into advertising and marketing and digital marketing from an agency side in general. Most mass comm students mass comm colleges, etc., should be able to give you an entry point over here. There are many ways to get into digital, like I said, right? You can get into an agency side of things in these three roles. You can get in on the company side of things as well. So, for example, if one of your friends has a company, they've just started something during the pandemic, you started a small business or something, the initial experiment was successful, now they need to scale up. You can partner with that friend and say, hey, I'll help you out with digital marketing. Now, that could mean everything that I said right now can technically be done by one person as long as the operations are small. Thinking about strategy a little bit, thinking about content a little bit, doing the paid marketing also a little bit, which means handling actual spends. So say that friend has 5,000 rupees a month that they're willing to spend on Instagram ads. You manage that. You figure out where to spend that. What are the ads going to look like? What are the ads going to lead to? All that sort of thing. And at the same time, at the end of all this, looking at all the numbers and saying, okay, here's how we are performing. Here's what we should do next month, so on and so forth. So there are many ways to get into digital. I think it's really a matter of which part of this interests you the most and then delving more into this. The one advice I will have for anyone who's interested in marketing, digital or otherwise, is the best way to get interested and the best way to learn, I think, is always just by example. Look at your favorite ads, or just look at the advertising around you, right? Look at the advertising around you, look at the marketing around you, and try to deconstruct that. Almost try to deconstruct it back to the PPT from which it was born. So the next time you see a email from a brand, right, our instinct might be to delete it, and when but understand that there is a human being at the end of that who desperately wanted you to open that, right? I'm not saying that you should go and buy whatever that person was selling, but think through what that person's process was. Like, how could they have gotten you to click that? How could they have gotten you to open that, etc.? So when you try to get behind the psyche of some of the ads that you see, what is the reason that this ad is doing this? A lot of people ask, what is the reason that Cred did the ads that they did, right? And there's a lot of healthy debate happening on this. Ask yourself that question. What could be the reason Cred did something like that, right? Because they're not idiots to throw away money like that. So ask yourself, what could be the reason for doing things like that? Form your own theories. This, I think, is the best way to learn marketing. It may not be the most sophisticated. It may not be something that you can put on your CV. But in my experience, observing the advertising and marketing around you is by far the best way to learn marketing and really just form your own opinions and theories as a marketer. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that is so true. I think it wonderfully explains, and like, and now after listening to this, I really understand like how ads work and what companies are thinking when they was thinking about this ad, or maybe how they're creating. And maybe I will think about it too now. Like, what was that PPT was about? Then
Yeah,
it
yeah.
resulted into this mail or this ad.
And just a caveat to that, not all advertising needs to necessarily be good, right? So don't assume that the person who's sending the ad was right and you are wrong. Please remember this. Ultimately, you may or may not be an expert in marketing, but you are, see, at the end of the day, you are the quote target customer that they are trying to reach, right? Which means if the ad that you're seeing does not work for you, it means that somebody has done something wrong, right? If, for example, I am receiving an ad on, if I am receiving an ad for a super high-end luxury car, right, which I am definitely not in the target audience for, somebody somewhere has done a bad job of targeting, right? They have wasted money in that ad reaching me because I'm not going to click it and I'm not going to buy a luxury car, right?
Correct.
Then how could that marketer have done something better? So don't assume that the marketer is correct, right? so have an opinion from that perspective also. So if you're seeing a lot of insurance advertising around you and you're not in the market for insurance, then these guys are doing something wrong. Maybe it's just a matter of lazy marketing. Somebody must have just gone to Instagram and say, send this to everyone who is 30 to 35 in the top 4 cities in India. So the thing is, a lot of digital platforms has allowed marketers to become lazy, right? So snuff out that laziness, and analyzing bad advertising that comes your way is a great way of figuring out what those mistakes are so that you don't make them when you get into the profession.
Correct. Definitely. I think that is the way where you, while researching, you think it from holistic perspective,
Yeah,
where what the marketing is being doing and what you could have done better, or what
yeah,
would have resulted in. And I think one of the points that you highlighted is to do your own research and understand what are the different ways into
yeah,
digital marketing, what aligns best with you, which aligns with your skill set, or what aligns with your passion to go
yeah,
into that segment.
yeah,
Maybe it could be video advertising, it could be
yeah,
budgeting, or it could be
yeah.
anything, but the research part is very important and
Yeah,
critical.
more than research, Sarthak, I think the word to use is introspection, because I
Hmm.
don't think it's about research. Research is when you go outside and see what the world has. I think introspection is more, I know this sounds kind of cheesy to say, but it's more like internal research, right? It's
That is
like, what do you want to do, right?
correct.
What are you good at doing? I find that as a freelancer, I think the word that I've used the most is introspection, right? You really need to see what is it that you want to do, because now suddenly you're in charge of your own goals, your own career path, your own what kind of clients to get into and all that, right? So I think more than research, the word to use over there in that statement that you said is introspection. What part of digital appeals to you the most? And then research into that. Like if you find that the video creation part of that is what excites you the most, yes, then research about that. What are the kind of companies that exist? What are the agencies? What are the various stages within video creation that are out there, which are trending right now, which will be there in the future, so on and so forth. Yeah. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, definitely. I think one should introspect very carefully, like what
Yeah.
it is to become one, and what are the different various fields, and again, what again is aligns with your goals and how you want to move forward.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. And then one of the things that you mentioned regarding the cred ads and how they have been designed, and how you have worked on the content side of it as well. So wanted to take a deep dive towards that direction and want
Hmm.
understand like what is this content space is all about, because it's about writing the best thing. Everybody wants to write the best copy, like Zomato, Swiggy, and other companies are coming with such good lines and such catchy notifications or Instagram post and everything. So copy has become one of those aspects, and companies are focusing more and more towards it, like what to convey and how to convey it the best possible way. So want to understand like uh, how it does create that impact, and what are the things to understand from the copy point of view or content point of view, and
Hmm.
how can one move in that space specifically.
Yeah. Okay. Again, fairly broad question. So let me try to again kind of break it down, right?
Hmm.
Let me take the example that you said and work outwards from there. Like let's take Zomato for instance. Even a casual observer, it doesn't need to be a person who's actually working in marketing. If you ask, name 3 brands that do a good job on social media, brands that do a good job on social media, it's quite likely that they're going to mention Zomato at some point or the other, right? It's very respected in the marketing fraternity as well, and I think they do a really, really good job. Now, it's worth asking, okay, what are they getting right? How is it that these guys are standing out? There are hundreds of brands in India. There are lots of young brands in the country as well. What is it that Zomato keeps getting right? It's not just about the lines, right? It's really not just about the copywriting that they do, right? Because there are lots of great ads and lots of great companies with really, really nice lines. It's really not just about the lines. It's really and here is really where strategy comes into the picture a little bit. If you take any brand in the country, chances are that their Instagram presence is not going to be all that great. It's not going to be very appealing. They may use nice lines. Like, for example, if you go to Burger King's profile, if you go to some of the young fintechs social media, you'll see that the copywriting is nice. The quality of writing is nice. But this is not a game for who is writing the best. Ultimately, what is all this leading to? So for that, take a step back and just think about what you do on your Instagram and what you expect as a user when you open up that app on Instagram, right? Just everyone who's listening to this, just take a second to think about, okay, you're clicking that app. What is it that you expect? What is that you want on the other side of that? Typically, when you open Instagram, you are looking for a little bit of a break from work that you're doing or just a little bit of distraction. You are possibly expecting to see some maybe travel photos from a friend, you are stalking your crush, your maybe some meme pages have put up something. This is typically what you want when you open up your Instagram. It's a different matter if you're going specifically for one thing. Somebody said, hey, check this creator out or check exactly this company out. That's a different matter. That's an exceptional use case. But most likely when you open up Instagram, you're looking for a little bit of distraction, a little bit of entertainment. It's another matter that you might deep dive into rabbit holes and waste a couple of hours on the app, but that's a different matter altogether, right? Think about what appeals to you on the app. Chances are it's going to fall into one of two categories. It's either going to entertain you or it's going to educate you in some way or the other, right?
Correct.
So these two words are very important to keep in mind: entertain and educate. If a brand is not doing one of these two things on social media, it's likely to fail. It's very, very likely to fail, which means that there is a lot of good copywriting happening, but because it is not entertaining or because it is not educating, people are ignoring it, right? There are many, many examples. I don't want to take any names, but chances are you just think of a young brand. If you go to their Instagram profile, you see that the writing is fairly decent. The design is also fairly decent, but that's not enough. Right? That's really not enough. Now let's take a step back and see what Zomato is doing right. Zomato, if you see what their Instagram actually is like, they don't promote themselves all that much, right? And this is very, very conscious. If you look through it may or may not be apparent to somebody who's not in the marketing fraternity, but if you just look through the top, like if you just see all the content that they have, they don't promote themselves at all. They never say buy from us. They never say this offer is live on Zomato right now. They hardly ever do that. What they do a terrific job of is they actually celebrate food. It's actually more a meme page celebrating food rather than a brand social media account, if you think about it, right? And that, I think, really is their success. So when you think about this from a strategic point of view, we would say that let's not use social media to promote the brand and all that. Let us use it as a place to celebrate food so that people will eventually fall in love with the brand. Why do we want people to fall in love with the brand? Because then they will remember us at that pivotal point at which they are hungry and then they need to choose between the 2 or 3 apps that they're choosing from. Again, I'm just taking a couple of steps back over here. All of marketing is divided into 2 parts. One is sales and one is brand building. Sales is all the unmemorable advertising that gets you to buy now. All the ads that you see, 20% off, buy now, purchase this, you left this in your cart, that sort of thing. That is what is called performance advertising or sales-based advertising, which is getting you to purchase something immediately. The aim of those ads is to convert your visibility into revenue. Then you have something called brand building, which is really just building the brand itself, right? And brand building is slightly more vague, but it's also very, very powerful. Because if I ask listeners or whoever's listening to this to think of a brand of a shoe, I know which one you're going to be thinking of. And the reason for that is not because you've seen a Nike ad recently, is because you've grown up with Nike ads all your life. You've seen your favorite cricketers, footballers, basketball players using it. It's such a part of cultural discussion, etc., etc. And that is really what building a brand is. In fact, there's a very interesting thing that happened a couple of years back or last year. Airbnb, the bookings company, they actually stopped doing the sales-based advertising in 2020 during the pandemic, and then they realized it actually wasn't affecting their sales at all, right? So just imagine, sales is not being affected, even though the sales-based advertising is not big. The reason being, they have such a strong brand. People are automatically searching for Airbnb in Greece, or they're coming to the Airbnb website. So they took a call last year that they're going to focus only on brand building activities, because that's really what helps them in the long run. Quite simply put, and I will distill this marketing lesson down into this one line: building a strong brand today helps sales tomorrow. That's really the crux of it all. So now if you come back to the Zomato question, because they're using social media, the point of their social media is to use it more from a brand building point of view than from a sales point of view, right?
Correct.
So the strategic role of social media is very clear. Just have fun, let people fall in love with Zomato. By the way, I'm saying this with some confidence because I actually interviewed the guy who used to run their social media. So this is not just me analyzing. This is from the insights from an interview that I did with Pranav, who used to handle their social media. And just make them fall in love with the brand. And if you see, that's the same tactic that they employ in a lot of other platforms as well, including Twitter, including YouTube, so on and so forth. But what about the sales-based stuff? They have other platforms for that. You might have seen a Zomato sales-based ad at some point of time to get 10% off on this restaurant. Or when you open the app, you will see some sales-based ads over there. You might get some notifications, so on and so forth. So Zomato does a good balance of the brand building stuff and the sales-based stuff. Now I come back to the question that you actually asked. Sorry, this was a very, very long journey to get to this answer, I know, but I promise you it'll make sense.
Yeah.
Now you see the strategic role of social media, right? Have fun with food, make people fall in love with Zomato, and when they think about food, they should think about Zomato. This almost seems like the single line brief to a copywriter. Now look at the difference when you look at creating content from these two angles. Okay, so angle one, create content for Zomato. Angle two is make people fall in love with food and equate Zomato to food. That's all. We don't need them to come to the app. We don't want them to buy now, nothing like that. Equate Zomato to food. These are two very different briefs. And this shows you the power of a good brief, right? Having a very strong line. Now, once you have that, now you can go crazy doing all kinds of things. Now have a look at Zomato social media content and see. You will see that's the genesis of all the clever lines that they come out with and all the other things that they come, all the videos, reels, contests, and all those other things that they come out with. So that's that's why strategy is very important to affect what each of these the content that finally comes out shouldn't just be created in isolation. You should always ask, okay, what's the purpose of this content that I'm creating? Be it for social media, be it even for a blog, be it for an email for a client. You should always think about, okay, what's the purpose behind this, right? It's easy for anyone to create a nice couple of lines, but the context of where that line is going to be used, I think, is the most important thing. So to any person who is thinking of getting into content, who is listening to this, my advice as to how to become a better writer, or see, from a writing point of view, I'm not going to give too much advice because I really haven't done any course or anything myself. It's just I've done a lot. I spent my childhood reading, and then after that it was just a lot of writing. So I guess that's a craft where practice really does make perfect. There are some courses available online and all that, and I'll give a few specific copywriting tips also after this if you like. But purely from a craft point of view, be it writing, be it drawing, be it photography, be it videography, any creative skill, it is honestly just a matter of doing it again, figuring out where your mistakes are, figuring out what your strengths are, figuring out what your weaknesses are, learning from other people. Everything that I said about advertising, right? Look at other examples. If you're a photographer, look at another photographer, see what they're trying to do, try to mimic, try to develop your own style, so on and so forth. It is just a matter of doing again and again, again and again and again. Copywriting specifically, this is very interesting exercise that I read somewhere. I haven't tried it myself, but I think it's a very, very nice exercise. And I think something that any creative person in any field can do, which is take a writer whose writing you really, really like. And this may sound weird because this is the 21st century and we use keyboards and we hardly write using good old pen and paper anymore. Take a piece of paper and write down the entire article, and write very, very slowly. You will then see what the author was trying to do. You will see, because see, what you see on the paper or what you see on the screen is the end result of a lot of thought process, right? The best writers are not, they don't just use fancy words. They're also very good at knowing what to leave in and what to leave out. Like if you study a really good photograph, the next time, even if you're not a photographer, if you see a photograph on Instagram that just makes you go, whoa, right? It's not just about the camera. Sure, that plays a role. That plays a very important role. But it's not just that. It's also the framing. It's also the, like, if you see one bird flying across the moon, that silhouette wala photo, just imagine the amount of time it must have taken to get that photo right. It's not just serendipity, right? So try to study. If you're a photographer, look at good photographers and see what is it that they try to do. Again, do that whole thinking process. What was the thinking behind this? What the effort that was needed behind this? Then try to incorporate that in your own style. Whatever creative output we see, be it in terms of writing, be it in terms of photographs, videos, whatever it is, remember that is only the end of a very, very long process. So this is something that I would highly recommend for absolutely anybody who's looking to get into the creative, the creative side of things. I hope that answers the question that you asked, Sarthak. I know I don't give very straight answers. As you can see, you asked how can somebody become a better content person, and I hope in this long rambling answer I was able to give some idea. So again, I'll just give two broad takeaways. One is, try to emulate or try to understand what the thinking behind some of your favorite writers slash photographers slash creators, etc are. And two, always think strategically, right? Don't just, if you're writing for yourself, if you're writing for your own blog or something like that, sure, go for it. Practice, be better at your craft. But when you're writing for businesses, when you're writing for an agency, when you're writing for a company, always think about what your content is going to be used for and then tailor it accordingly. It will be very different when you're writing for social media versus when you're writing for a very serious email for a website. Like Zomato is playful on Instagram, but if somebody complains to them on Twitter, they have a very different tone. Similarly, on their website, they have a very different tone. So you need to tailor your content, be it text, be it video, be it image, depending on the context in which it is used. So yeah, I hope that helps. Again, really, really long answer. Sorry about that.
No, definitely. I think it's to answer the question very well. You need to create the setup around it. You need
Yeah,
to chase that to the right place. You cannot just blot out it in 2-3 minutes and compile
yeah.
that, right? You need to go out and explain why this is required, what kind of impact does it create, and I think that your answers answer the question very well on that part.